Golick's family needs help. We'll get back to that coming up. And a man who waited much too long but finally got the call from the Hall will join us next on ESPN Radio. I wish I had been here for that yesterday. I know that we had Andre Reed, who got into the Hall of Fame. It's a week of Hall of Famers this week. We had Derek Brooks on Tuesday. And then Andre Reed yesterday. I know we had Jim Kelly call in to congratulate him. Did that go as well as we hoped?
Fantastic. And we talked about, we know the Hall of Fame is an individual sport, but when Andre Reed is getting his jacket on, the teammates and coach he'll have behind him, I mean, it's turning into a team sport for that Buffalo Bills team.
Absolutely. And this is a guy now who joins us on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline who waited so long. And we have been campaigning for this for years and years and years. The position of punter in the NFL is an important, valuable, and real NFL position, football player. And they had never put a punter in. And they needed to do it, and they needed to put the best one of all time in, and this year they finally got it right. We're pleased to welcome him for the first time as a Hall of Famer, the great Raider Ray Guy on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Ray, we're Mike and Mike. Congratulations. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great, my friend. Still hadn't come back down off cloud nine yet, and technically I don't know exactly when it's going to soak in, but I feel great. It's a little cold down here in Mississippi, but, we'll have to endure what we can.
It's pretty cold up here in Connecticut, too, but that's neither here nor there.
I realize that. Yeah, I realize that, because I was up there, 5 days in New York. Man, I was ready to get back here, and darn if it ain't cold here.
So give us a sense, Ray, of what your emotions were over these many years. It certainly looked like you were never going to get into the Hall of Fame, and I think it was a statement about the way people have not just so much viewed you, but viewed the position of punter. So what were your emotions through all of those disappointments, and what are they now they finally have given you this honor?
Well, it was real disappointing, from the first time in '92 up until this past weekend when it finally happened. But you kind of learn to endure it. You understand, when your time comes, then it will happen. And so you just kind of have to be patient and, think about, what you've done and where you're going and, when it might happen. But I was very elated. I'm relieved more than anything, I would say. But from my standpoint, I'm elated on that part. But I'm really gratifying knowing now that, one, it's over and done with. The waiting, I don't have to, do that anymore. But from the standpoint of my fans, my teammates, my, friends and things of this nature, they can finally, put it to rest, too, because all the years that I didn't, and with my travels and, going to different places and, working with kids in the summer and doing engagements and things, that's all I heard. People just assumed that I was in there and did not have to tell them, no, we're not. We're going to have to wait a while. But, I'm great. And going in Saturday with that class of 2014 and all that, boy, to me, I couldn't ask for a better ending.
Was there a point where you gave up hope?
No, not really. Not really. I didn't give up hope. It's just that, I'm kind of a patient man, but sometimes, you get a little frustrated when it don't happen or things of this nature. But, it's over now. I mean, I have, really, as far as my professionalism and athletics and football, there's not really another plateau. But, it was said this weekend, now this is for all ages to come. So, I'm there and I'm ready to, to go and meet all the former Hall of Famers and the legends and, listen to their views and their talks about what it's been like, the years that they made it and they end there and their travels and, how people, recept to them. So I'm just elated. I mean, I still can't believe it, but I'm proud.
Ray Guy waited 23 years through his eligibility to finally get into the Hall of Fame. His last year playing was 1986. He's with us live on Mike and Mike. A couple of different things, Ray, I'm dying to ask you. Mike and I both grew up with your Raiders teams, and I loved the Raiders, and I certainly remember your career so vividly. Let's start with this. They used to say you could throw a football 100 yards. Was that true? Could you actually throw the ball from one goal line and reach the other?
No, actually, it was 80 yards. So, I mean, I was 20 yards short on that one. But, I played quarterback in high school and a little bit in college. But, of course, then I wound up the third-string quarterback with the Raiders. I mean, I had a pretty good arm because that contributed to playing baseball, all my life and all that. But, I to really, help the Raiders out in any way I could from the standpoint of being a punter or being a former player. I always got involved with all the activities during the week in practice because I wanted to really get into insight of what they were trying to accomplish on the opponents we were playing each weekend. And that way I was more prepared mentally than I was physically. So, I got involved in it, and I think that made it a lot easier from day one in 1973 when I first showed up at training camp. It made it a lot easier for me knowing very well that the players accept me as a first-round draft choice, not only a punter but a team player, and that's what I've always been accustomed to. It's a team effort regardless of what you do. So, and I couldn't ask for a better a deal to get drafted by the Raiders and be with that team for 14 years.
And what a team it was, and thinking back on those teams of the late 70s, led by Ken Stabler, and I read Ken Stabler's book, which was called Snake, and some of the stories in there are unbelievable. And so I guess we would just ask you, particularly for the members of our audience who aren't old enough to remember, we all heard all these crazy stories about how wild the Renegade Raiders were. Would you say those stories are accurate? Are they overstated, or are they in fact understated and don't even tell the whole story?
I would say they're accurate because that's the way I guess back in those days and all that. I was very active in high school. I loved to play. I loved to compete. I loved the guys I was with to be on the field with them. But yet, off the field, we were pretty much the same. We always was a unity. It was a camaraderie that once you become a part of that, you cannot break it. And the Raiders, we had fun. We practiced hard. We played hard. And then, we actually partied hard. I think that's the way life is anyway. It's not all work and no play, and we play too. But I guess we get together, off the field and go out, and we do a lot of things together with a lot of us at times, at different times. And, I think what it does too, it bonds you more within being a person, but yet being a teammate and an organization like the Raiders had. And that made that unity and that binding in there more solid and more together, and that was a very success for the Raiders.
Ray Guy joining us, Hall of Famer Ray Guy, the 22nd member of the Raiders, who will now go into Canton into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. What's the first thing you signed, and how'd that feel that you put HOF on?
Well, I almost messed it up. That's like we were sitting there after the day after on Sunday, not Sunday, but Monday. And we were signing these, Hall of Fame helmets and balls and stuff like that. And I'm kind of like Derek did. He when he signed his name, he almost put 55 on there and, Buccaneers. But then we had to catch ourselves to put HOF 2014. It's gratifying now that I can actually do that, knowing through the years going to different, memorabilia shows, and people bring these Hall of Fame footballs in with all these legends, names on it and their years that they were inducted into the Hall of Fame. They want me to sign it, and then they want to put it. I said, I can't sign this because I'm not a Hall of Famer yet. They said, well, who cares? Just put your name on there, and when it happens, we'll put it on there for you. So now I can actually go and do that and smile when I do that.
Well, Ray, wow. we offer our congratulations. This was something that was long overdue. We're so happy for you as big fans of yours when we were growing up falling in love with the game of football. So congratulations on an honor well-deserved.
Well, I appreciate it. And like I said, this is for the fans and all of my teammates throughout the years. And like I said, now we can go and rest and have a good time and say it with a proud face. I'm a member of the NFL Hall of Fame 2014.
Good for you, Ray.
Great,
Thanks
Ray.
a million.
Thanks.
Ray Guy on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Hurry to Subway this February for the $3 6-inch select oven-roasted chicken. Subway, eat fresh.
That man had to wait outside that door for 23 years. And still, the voters, you guys blew it. Because he was a senior committee nominee.
Yeah.
He didn't even get to vote in. You voters, it could be the biggest atrocity of voters ever. Y'all should be ashamed of yourself that you didn't vote this guy in the Hall of Fame. I have no idea what was on your knucklehead minds for not putting him in there to make that man wait that long. The greatest punter the game has seen deserved that bust years ago, and it's great to hear how appreciative he is of it, even though he had to wait all that time.
The couple of things that come to mind when you think of Ray Guy, I had always thought I'd heard he could throw the ball 100 yards. He just said it was 80. He was the best at something that no one does anymore, which is the coffin corner. The coffin corner was something they used to have in football. Young people don't even know what I'm talking about. But when you were trying to pin a team deep, instead of that high punt now, they try and get like a fair catch inside the 10. They kick it with
the point down now and try and backspin it.
These guys used to kick it out of bounds. And Ray Guy would kick it out of bounds, and he would angle it so that it would go out on the 3.
It was fantastic.
Every single time.
One of the last ones to do it, quite honestly, was my buddy and my former teammate with the Eagles, Jeff Fiegels. Jeff Fiegels would try and angle them, but barely anybody did it. It might have been just him. They all do that point down and backward spin now on it. Nobody goes for the coffin corner.
And the other thing, if you're not old enough to remember the Raiders of the 70s, or if you just want to hear interesting stories, a team that would have found Dennis Rodman boring. Go find Ken Stabler's book. It's called Snake. It came out probably in the early 80s sometime. I read that book. I mean, I'm talking about what Ray Guy is talking about, team bonding. And nothing will bond a team like breaking a pool cue over the back of someone else's head. I mean, those guys were crazy. Stabler used to famously say he would read the playbook by the light of the jukebox. I mean, those guys were – the stories, how many games Stabler went to where he'd been up all night the night before and went out and threw for 4 touchdowns.
Ray said they were accurate stories.
Just the most interesting, crazy stuff you've ever read in your life. I cannot recommend it strongly enough. All right, coming up next, Golik's family needs our help, and we will make a decision.